Okay, Yuhan. Hopefully you folks have time to go get some water, go get something to eat. We'll work on making sure that we break closer to the middle of class. These first couple of classes, we had a lot of stuff to get through, but okay, so like Shgaté said, we're going to watch Jesse Johnny talking about learning Tlingit. There will be English subtitles for folks. So for absolute beginners, encourage you just to listen, get a feel for the sound. Intermediate and more advanced speakers really think about how she's pronouncing things, what she's talking about, and then we will come back together and give folks an opportunity to respond. So for those more seasoned Tlingit learners, if you'd like to respond in Tlingit, and then we'll sort of respond in English once folks feel comfortable doing so. Ega?
Yep.
Okay.
Yake awe yake iga Juan.
Sheesh.
Johnny aya. Kletkak enach Jesse Johnny aya. Singet enach kua. Shgaté. Chukanedi. Sha ayachat. Chai hittach. Glacier Bay. Yidat. Helkadaya kushuska. Gunach sahat utu ade. Hasik ohas tu nachaya hakutiti. Achaya. Singich kalitzin. Kasik. Yidat. Akutaya ya nachich. Ya introduction. Akadak yasa'a. Ya kyachya yidat. Hayuk ʼatángi. Tsuhet. Akachukachtushi. Straight course. Let kachi yasak. Huhanch ku'a. Hashukka. Yuk ʼatángi. Hashukakau yuk ʼatángi. Tlachwasa kukdal. Yayawaka. Ayayidat. Achtawasiku. Shakati Juan. Atayutu isa'a. Ade. Isik uchiwasaya. Kat gudach sahati gude. Stakat yande akakwanik. Your lifeline. And we seem to be leaving them behind. We need to stop and listen. And we need to take baby steps to go forward again. But don't look back. Don't look back on the mistake that you make. Correct it up further. Things will work out for everybody. We all work the same way. Through our grandmothers and our grandfathers speaking tongue, the Tlingit. Tlachwasak asitzin, yasingit yuk ʼatángi. Hestana ayahkuke Dultóow Yé ʼatángi Yé aya in kahwanik Gunalchish a'edi sa'ache Chachasiku adayutukachila'at Yego ayahwan Yililkohascha iqedasusi achidat Yego ayahwan Gunechtu aditsu Yego ayahwan Huhanaya Halilkohas hastu itchian tuat Yego ayahwan Shgaté Juan Aqede qois ache gunalchish Ye awa
Gunashish.
Was away, Johan. Sheesh. Thoughts, things you recognized for folks who've been learning for a while. Even if you've seen or listened to this video. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yahweh Gunashish Isihan Gunashish Katina Shgaté dat Igahwan Architectura Hasliskohes Weda Wusitini they help us. Gunashish the Kachuan Igahwan Guchte Gidahan
Sheesh. Any other thoughts, comments? Folks who've heard that before, recognize something different.
Ida,
Ah,
could we please listen to it again?
Ege?
Sheesh.
Tlitkak enach Jesse Johnny aya Singet enach kua Shgaté Chukanedi Sha ayachat Chai hittach Glacier Bay Yidat Helkadaya Kushuska Gunach Sahadu tu ade Hasilk ohas tu nachaya hakutiti Achaya Singich Alitzin Kasilk Yidat Akutaya ya nachich ya introduction Akadak ya sha'a Ya kyachya ti yidat hayuk ʼatángi. Tsuhet, tsuhet, tsuhet. Akakaktushi. Straight course, let kache yasak. Huhanch koa. Hashukka yuk ʼatángi. Hashukakau yuk ʼatángi. Tlahwasa kuk dal. Yayawaka. Ayayidat. Achtawasiku. Shakati Juan. Atayutu isa'a. Ade. Ishik uchiwasaya. Katkudak sahati kuti. Stakat yande akakwanik. Your lifeline is your grandfathers and grandmothers. They're the ones that's important today. And we seem to be leaving them behind. We need to stop and listen. And we need to take baby steps to go forward again. But don't look back. Don't look back on the mistake that you make. Correct it up further. Things will work out for everybody. We all work the same way. Through our grandmothers and our grandfathers speaking tongue, the Tlingit. Tlahwasak asitsin, yasingit yuk ʼatángi. Hestana ayahkuke, wutu uwu, yahayuk ʼatángi. Ye ayah, ye in kahwanik. Gonna choose a lady sa'ache. Kahasiku adayutu kahisaat. Ye go ayahwan. Ye sis kohasha iqedasusi achidat. Ye go ayahwan. Gonna tu aditsu. Ye go ayahwan. Huhanaya. Hasis kohas. Hastu itchan tu at. Ye go ayahwan. Shakati Juan. Aqede qis achi gonal chish. Ye awa.
Yahweh goodness cheese has Nico has way to ye active pure guy Juan.
Sheesh.
Dultóow Yé. It says a lot about the past. I'm not looking back because I see that and I hear that a lot from people on the trauma and learning. And so it's a good experience now in goodness cheese.
Sheesh. Any other thoughts folks want to share? Tlingit, breakout, ʼatángi.
Qagan qus ite iyahayi kawu.
Ah, It's that time of year. It also means half of my screen is completely invisible to me, so. Eflasa.
Shgaté qo.
Jeez. Not often we have this problem in Juneau.
Yeah. So
Goodness, chish. It ita awaka Latin. You said to listen specifically for sounds and letters, and I realized that the Kanak and K, the leading X, Taidichi, the underlined X, I probably don't read that as smoothly as I should. But that gives me another reason to listen to this one over and over again. So Gunashish.
I'd add to that, to the cadence of her speaking is probably the best one to learn on. Like that's the one I can hear most. Some of the faster speakers, it'll get lost and trying to keep up. And I just really like her cadence.
I noticed some similarities with other speakers in that, like, I noticed there's a tendency to like say things 3 times, or you'll have like a concept and they'll like say it and then they'll kind of say it again, maybe a little bit differently, and then one more time a little bit differently. And then I also noticed they all seem to kind of end with the Yahweh and Gunashish.
Gunashish, yeah, there is that repetition we see in other folks' speeches. We see that in different stories, that a repeating of an idea to sort of build emphasis on that, to connect that. And really, it's not just, you know, have strength and courage, it's have it, and then having those, you know, sort of different ways of connecting with folks by adding those, you know, alliteration of this concept. Yeah, a lot happens in this 4-minute, 5-minute speech to the future, to Tlingit learners. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've heard this particular clip, but I always come back and sort of recognize something different, either how she's pronouncing something or how, you know, the way she's structured, the way she introduced herself, talked about who her family was, and then talked about sort of coming from her own space and experience to this larger understanding of connecting with our grandparents, and our grandparents having built the, we're following them, right? Following in their footsteps.
I think I was really noticing the pronunciation on some of the guttural sounds and how, depending on where it is in the word, it could be a little harder or softer, in particular like the underlined pinched X. You know, and when it was followed by like an underlined X, I noticed it was a little softer of a guttural and a pinch. I don't know if that was just the way she spoke, or if that was a common practice with pronunciation, but I thought that was really interesting. Gunashish.
Gunashish. Yeah, hopefully both in this class and in other learning opportunities you folks have, listening to all kinds of speakers who do have different ways of talking, either based on the community that they're from or their family, or just what they're, you know, what the purpose of what they're talking about is, right? So if you knew you were talking to beginning level speakers, you might emphasize something more because you really do want to get that pronunciation across. Whereas if it's a fast speech or you're talking to someone you're really familiar with, maybe those accents or that emphasis might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I did have a question about that. It seems like for a beginner, a lot of the things that I've heard is really slow. So I'm also a Spanish speaker, and that's a lot of syllables per minute. Is that intentionally because of the nature of the speech that they're giving, or is it in general a slower language?
Yeah, so it very much depends on the speaker. I mean, just like in English, we have people who speak really, really fast and people who speak really slow. And so Susie James, I always think of when I think of people who just speak incredibly fast. And Dultóow Yé is nodding. He also speaks very fast. Yeah, so it really is based on speaker, based on how, you know, just their speech style, and then a little bit about the audience too, right? So if they know that they're talking to newer learners, they might slow down a little bit, just like you might slow down a little bit if you're talking to someone whose first language isn't English, but then when you're talking with your friends, it might be faster.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the different things I've been noticing too is starting to hear the different types of Tlingit spoken, like Daka versus Ikka, and like Wasa'yati versus Masa'yati. And I think like on the map too, I'll say Masa'yati, Wasa'yati. And then, but you start to hear the different types, and like Ikka sounds correct to me just because that's what I grew up with. And then they'll tell me that's how you do it. You know, they say it wrong. So, but it's just very interesting to start to hear the different types and the cadences.
Yeah, there's different philosophies around Tlingit for sure. We have, I know Shgaté and myself, we work with a lot of different communities, worked and have learned with a lot of different speakers. And so in this class and the classes that we try and host, there is no one correct way of doing it. It is just based on if this is how your elders speak, if this is how your community says it, then that's the way you do it. And so yeah, as you're learning Tlingit, if you're just starting to learn, you might come across someone who will tell you, no, that's not correct. And it could be maybe that you made a mistake, but it could also just be it's said differently somewhere else. And yeah, that's totally fine. I think I know Dultóow Yé also travels quite a bit, lots of different ways of speaking Tlingit. We kind of know the Eitka and Dakka. That is probably the most easily recognizable difference, but each community, each family sometimes would speak a little bit differently to each other. And that's just what makes one of the many things that makes Tlingit so cool, is to have all these different ways of speaking and yet still being able to communicate with each other.
In Klawak, I heard an elder who grew up in Klawak, and she said, Wasa'yati. So they have different tones too, that it could be a family, but I think that was a community. In fact, I've heard elders say, oh, they talk sing-song in that area. Wasa'yati.
There was a past student, the folks in my class this past spring, that was looking specifically at Tongass Tlingit, the Tlingit that was spoken way down south. And yeah, it was very lyrical, but they didn't have tone in the same way that we do in other parts of Tlingit Ani. So yeah, you can go from the difference between the W and the M to some parts of Tlingit country, they don't have tone in the same way. And so I think super cool.
I'm in Klawak. I live in Klawak, and we do speak sing-songy, and it's so odd having to learn from, you know, other sources because most of our elders are gone. So I've been noticing so many differences in how you guys speak versus how we speak versus cake and all that.
Yeah, so having so many people from so many different places, including the lower 48, is really exciting for me, because then we can have these different connections for different ways of speaking, and hopefully connect resources to folks that communities that maybe don't have speakers, or there's documentation that we can look at, recordings we can look at. We still have some recordings on wax cylinders, if anyone has seen that. So we do have a lot of wealth that we need to sort of access, I think, in different archives and different museums that really do speak to these different ways of speaking Tlingit, particularly Southern Tlingit.
Oh, goodness, cheese idaka.
Sheesh. Anything else?
Tuhaka kewa. Your video shows truly the sun is shining down on us all. Goodness, cheese isihan. Tuhaka kewa. There was so much that I could pick up that is so intrinsic. We're all Tlingit. And when we start to hear Tlingit ʼatángi, it sparks something. And Gunas Chish Isehan Juan. I really enjoyed this class tonight. Gunas Chish Takachuan, Juan, Jade Hatnau, Juan, Huchue.
Okay, so for the last couple of minutes, so today we were going to look at pronunciation. We'll do some more of that tomorrow as well. But for last 5-ish minutes, I would like us to break out into some smaller groups. So I'll make the breakout room, and it'll be up to you to pick which room you feel most comfortable in. So the first room, which will be with me, will be for absolute beginners, who this is your first formal Tlingit class, maybe haven't heard Tlingit before, or only heard it in a couple of places. The second group will be folks that have been studying, either been studying for a year or more, but feel like they could use some help, particularly with those back sounds, some of those harder sounds for us coming from an English background. And then the third group is folks who feel pretty comfortable with pronunciation, it's been learning for a while, and don't feel like they need to go through the alphabet again. I have a general idea of where folks ought to be, but I'll let you folks pick where you're most comfortable. And then we'll sort of go from there. So the beginning group will go very slow through the alphabet. We probably won't get very far. That more familiar group, I would like you folks to go through just the harder, the more challenging sounds for newer speakers, and then that more seasoned group, Ane calls it the grizzled group, who've been around for a while. If you could help each other stay in Tlingit and put together some tongue twisters for us. So pulling together sentences that have some of those more challenging sounds, that would be Shgaté. For our more grizzled folks, if you would also help me sort of facilitate each of those rooms. If you see all of you folks are in that more tongue twister room, if one of you folks wouldn't mind jumping in to help the harder folks, the harder sound folks as well, that would also be Shgaté. Okay. the breakout rooms should be open. You folks should be able to pick one. If you can't, either raise your hand or put it in the chat and I will send you to whichever room you feel most comfortable going to.
And I'm sorry, where do we see how to go to the different ones?
So you should have gotten a message and it should put, but if you didn't and you
Like in the chat message?
No, it should have like popped up on your screen. There should have been like a Zoom invite to pick a room.
Nope.
The other thing is there's a square called breakout rooms at the bottom, and if you click on that, it will pull it up. It's in the bar at the bottom.
That one, let's see though. Let me see if I can find.
If not, and you know where you'd like to be, I can just send you there. The magic of Zoom.
Ida.
In theory, I'd like to learn, so let me keep trying.
I'd love to get into tongue twister, Ida.
Okay.
I'd like to get in room 2, and I have that open, but I can't seem to add myself. Oh, there we go.
I'll go to room 2. Can't see it either. Oh, join breakout room.
Iraka, Katina, Aktasigu, Claire, Hidi.
First room?
Click, Claire. No, Deh. Yeah, Deh.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Gunusti sesehan.
Room 2, please.
Can you put me in 3, Ida?
I sent you there.
Oh, did you?
Maybe I can
try again.
Yeah, something happened to mine. It's not letting me join one.
Okay, hold
I was just
on.
wondering where I would be most useful. You think, should I jump in room 2?
Yeah, I think so.
I was thinking 2 would be the most.
Yeah, I will move you.
Oliver, I can't see anything to go anywhere.
Where would you like to be? Absolute beginner, need help with harder sounds, or tongue twister group?
3, tongue twister.
Okay.
Okay, and you've invited me to the. Oh, okay, that's better now. I can sheesh.
Please send me to room Nazg.
Okay.
Khatsu, room 3.
Cheryl, where would you like to go? Holy. I've never closed the breakout rooms for so many people at one time. We are back. Oh, truly.
It was getting good.
I'm sorry we ran out of time, but we will come back to this tomorrow. Hopefully you folks had fun sort of thinking about pronunciation. I will send out emails that have the syllabus, the links, the slideshow that I showed, the beginning group, all of those things. Thank you folks so much for being here tonight, and we will see you again tomorrow night. If you have any questions before then, send myself or Kane an email. Otherwise, Tsuye Kwasatin, and we will see you sekanen. Cheese.
Goodness cheese.
That's you, hon. Have something you want.
Cheese.
Siyakan sa.
So yay. Cheese wish.
Oh, goodness cheese, Akani.
Shgaté. Just when you left, I was going to ask you to show them guys how to do it.
Oh.
Shgaté. Yake, Exitini, Shgaté, Sugotadi.
Charles.
Katina sa, you have to sa, Tasling Con. Shgaté, it's so good to see you. It was even better to hear your voice, my fine feathered friend, last night. Juan, goodness cheese, Ahoni. Thank you. Sandy.
Yeah, anyway, you're awesome. Wanted to say that. Siyakan.
Okay. Sheesh.